My name is Sophie, and I'm 25 years old. When I returned from a work conference in Chicago, eager to reunite with my golden retriever Max, my parents casually informed me they'd sold him while I was gone for my sister's wedding shoes. They said it like they'd donated old clothes to charity, expecting me to understand that $35,000 was too good to pass up for just a dog. But Max wasn't just a dog. He was the only family member who'd ever chosen me back. What happened next would expose 25 years of lies and the real price of my family's perfect facade. If you're watching this video right now, I'd love to know where you're from. Drop it in the comment section below. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories like this. The morning I first met Max, rain hammered against the shelter windows like tiny fists demanding entry. I wasn't supposed to be there. I'd only accompanied my roommate Sarah, who wanted to just look at cats. But as we passed the dog kennels, one particular face stopped me cold. A golden retriever mixed with eyes that held too much wisdom for his mere 8 weeks of life sat perfectly still while chaos erupted around him. Other puppies barked, jumped, and scrambled for attention. Max just watched me, his head tilted slightly, as if asking a question I didn't yet understand. "That one's been returned twice," the volunteer mentioned, noticing my pause. "People say he's too quiet, might be something wrong with him." But I knew better. In that stillness, I recognized a kindred spirit, someone who observed before acting, who understood that sometimes the loudest statement is silence itself. I signed the papers that afternoon, my parents' disapproval already echoing in my head before I'd even told them. 3 years had passed since that rainy morning, and Max had become more than a pet. He was my anchor in a household that often felt like drowning. Every morning at 6:15, his internal clock would activate, and he'd rest his chin on my bed, waiting patiently for my eyes to open. No barking, no pawing, just that gentle presence that said, "I'm here when you're ready." Our morning walks had become sacred rituals, weaving through Riverside Park as the city slowly awakened. Max knew every bench where we'd sat during my worst days, after Connor's betrayal, after losing the internship I'd worked so hard for, after countless family dinners where my achievements were footnotes to my sister Ashley's grand narratives. Training Max had revealed his extraordinary intelligence. Within weeks, he'd mastered commands that typically took months. Stay meant stay, whether I was gone for 30 seconds or 30 minutes. He could differentiate between his toys by name, Mr. Bunny, Blue Ball, Rope Snake, fetching each on command. But his greatest talent was reading emotions. On days when anxiety clawed at my chest, he'd appear with his leash in his mouth, forcing me outside into fresh air and movement. When tears threatened during late-night study sessions, he'd rest his head on my lap, grounding me with his warm weight. My parents, Richard and Diane Morrison, tolerated Max with the same resigned acceptance they applied to most of my choices. Dad, a real estate attorney who measured success in square footage and portfolio diversity, couldn't understand attachment to something that depreciated in value and generated only expenses. Mom, whose social calendar revolved around charity luncheons and Ashley's wedding planning, viewed Max as another example of my phase, like when I'd chosen social work over law school or dated Connor the musician instead of Bradley, the investment banker's son. Ashley, my younger sister by 3 years, had mastered the art of casual cruelty wrapped in sweet smiles. "Sophie's dog is actually adorable," she'd say at family dinners, emphasizing "actually" as if Max's existence was generally debatable. Her engagement to Preston Whitfield III had transformed her from merely spoiled to insufferably entitled. Every conversation circled back to wedding venues, designer dresses, or the catastrophic tragedy of the florist suggesting baby's breath instead of imported orchids. The irony wasn't lost on me that Ashley, who'd never held a job longer than a summer, whose college degree was essentially purchased through Dad's donations, was celebrated for landing Preston, while my promotion at the youth counseling center was met with, "Well, at least you're happy." Happiness, in the Morrison household, was something you settled for when you couldn't achieve success. The trip to Chicago couldn't have come at a worse time. My supervisor had specifically requested I attend the conference on trauma-informed care, calling me one of our most promising advocates. It meant 5 days away, the longest I'd been separated from Max since adoption. I'd considered boarding him, but Mom had actually seemed offended. We're perfectly capable of feeding a dog, Sophie. Don't be dramatic. The morning of departure, I'd prepared detailed instructions, though Max's routine was simple: morning walk, evening walk, 2 meals, and plenty of water. I'd stocked 2 weeks of his prescription food. He had a sensitive stomach, laid out his favorite toys, and even written down the vet's emergency number, though they already had it. "You've written a novel here," Dad observed, scanning my 3-page document. "It's a dog, not a nuclear reactor." Ashley, absorbed in her phone, hadn't looked up. "God, Sophie, we had dogs growing up. We know what to do." We'd had one dog, Buttons, who'd lived exclusively in the backyard and was rehomed when Ashley developed her convenient allergies at age 12. But I bit my tongue, kissed Max goodbye, and whispered our ritual parting. "Be good. I'll be back soon." Max had watched from the window as the Uber pulled away, and I'd fought the irrational urge to cancel everything and stay. Just 5 days, I'd told myself. What could possibly go wrong in 5 days? The conference was genuinely valuable, filled with innovative approaches and networking opportunities. But something fell off from the start. My first check-in call went unanswered. Mom texted back hours later. "Everything's fine. Stop worrying." The second day, I FaceTimed during what should have been Max's evening walk. Ashley answered, clearly at a restaurant. "Oh, he's around somewhere. Mom's handling it." In the background, I heard Preston mention something about that mutt and Ashley's tinkling laugh in response. By day 3, my calls were being actively declined. Dad texted, "Sophie, we're busy with wedding preparations. The dog is fine. Please respect our time." Respect our time. As if my concern for Max was some frivolous inconvenience interrupting their important work of selecting napkin colors and arguing about seating charts. I tried to focus on the conference, but anxiety gnawed at me. Max had never gone this long without routine. He'd be confused, possibly anxious. Did they remember his evening medication for his joints? Were they walking him enough? Sarah, my roommate, hadn't seen him either. "Your parents said they were taking him to their place for the week," she'd explained when I called. "I offered to check on him, but your mom said it wasn't necessary." The final 2 days crawled by. Every workshop on attachment and trust felt like mockery when I couldn't even trust my family with my dog. I caught an earlier flight home, landing at JFK at 3 p.m. instead of the planned 7 p.m. The taxi ride stretched endlessly, traffic crawling through Queens while my leg bounced with anticipation. I'd bought Max a new toy at the airport, a stuffed Chicago-style hot dog that squeaked. It was silly, touristy, but I knew he'd love the novelty. As we turned onto my parents' street in Westchester, I was already imagining his reaction, the initial freeze of recognition, the full-body wiggle that would follow, the way he'd vocalize his joy in those peculiar huffing sounds that weren't quite barks. The house stood pristine as always, Mom's prized roses flanking the walkway, Dad's Mercedes gleaming in the driveway beside Ashley's white Range Rover. Everything appeared normal, except for the absence of Max's face in the front window where he always waited when he heard cars approach. I used my key, calling out as I entered. "Max. Max. Buddy, I'm home." Silence. Not the expectant silence before pause thundered downstairs, but empty silence. The kind that echoes. "In here." Mom's voice drifted from the living room, carefully modulated in that way that meant she was controlling her tone. They sat arranged like a tribunal, Dad in his leather chair, Mom on the sofa's edge, Ashley sprawled beside her, admiring her manicure. "No Max anywhere. Where is he?" My voice came out steadier than expected, though my heart was attempting to escape through my throat. Mom and Dad exchanged glances, one of those wordless conversations they'd perfected over 28 years of marriage. Ashley continued studying her nails, but I caught the slight smirk playing at her lips. "Sit down, Sophie," Dad said, using his litigation voice, calm, authoritative, designed to control the narrative.
"Where is
Max?" "We need to discuss this rationally," Mom began, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her skirt. You know we've all been under tremendous stress with the wedding planning. Where is my dog? Ashley finally looked up, feigning surprise at my tone. God, Sophie, why are you being so aggressive? They're trying to talk to you. The toy hot dog in my bag felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. My keys bit into my palm where I clutched them. Every instinct screamed that something was catastrophically wrong. Dad cleared his throat. There was an opportunity that arose. A beneficial arrangement for everyone involved. What arrangement? The Weatherby's daughter has been wanting a well-trained dog, Mom said, words tumbling faster now. You know them, they own that estate in Greenwich? They offered a very generous sum. You sold him. The words came out as barely a whisper. It's not like that, Ashley interjected, holding up her left foot to display a shoe that probably cost more than my monthly rent. These are Louboutins limited edition. The wedding shoes I've dreamed about since I was 12. They became available, but only for immediate purchase, and Daddy's accounts were tied up in some investment thing. You sold my dog for shoes? Don't be dramatic, Dad said, standing now, assuming his full height, as if that would make this make sense. He's just a dog, Sophie. You can get another one. Just a dog. The phrase hung in the air like a toxic cloud. He's not just a dog. My voice broke, tears threatening, but I refused to give them that satisfaction. He's family. He's my family. We're family, Mom corrected, as if the distinction needed clarification. No, I said, surprising everyone, including myself, with the firmness. Family doesn't betray each other for designer shoes. Family doesn't sell what someone loves most while they're gone. Family doesn't. I had to stop, choking on rage and grief. Oh my God, you're being such a victim, Ashley rolled her eyes. It's one dog. Meanwhile, I'm planning the social event of the year, and you're having a breakdown over a pet you can replace tomorrow. Replace. As if Max was a broken appliance or an outdated phone. As if 3 years of loyalty, comfort, and unconditional love could be purchased new from a store. Who bought him? I asked, voice deadly quiet now. That's not important, Mom said quickly. Who bought him? Sophie, you need to accept, Dad began. Who bought my dog? The force of my scream startled everyone, myself included. I'd never raised my voice like that in this house. Good daughters didn't scream. Good daughters accepted, adapted, made do. But I wasn't a good daughter anymore. I was a woman who'd lost everything that mattered to pay for shoes that would be worn once. Dad's jaw tightened. Mr. Daniel Blackwood. He paid $15,000, if you must know. Far more than that mutt was worth. $15,000. That's what Max's life was worth to them. To Ashley's feet. I want his address. Absolutely not. Mom stood, moving toward me as if to offer comfort I didn't want. You'll embarrass us all. He's a respected businessman. I want his address. You won't get it from us, Ashley said, examining her shoes again. Besides, it's been 3 days. The dog's probably already forgotten you. 3 days. They'd sold him 3 days ago, let me panic and worry for 3 days, knowing he was gone. I turned and walked toward the stairs, needing distance before I said or did something irreversible. Where are you going? Mom called. To my room. To pack. To leave. Don't be ridiculous, Dad said. You're emotional. Sleep here tonight, and we'll discuss this rationally in the morning. I stopped at the base of the stairs, not turning around. Who bought him? Silence. That night, I lay in my childhood bed, clutching Max's favorite tennis ball I'd found under my dresser. The house felt like a mausoleum, every memory tainted by this betrayal. At 2 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway, stopping at my door. A soft rustling, then retreating steps. When I opened the door, a folded piece of paper lay on the floor. Inside, in handwriting I didn't recognize, Daniel Blackwood, 47, Thornwood Drive, Greenwich. No explanation. No signature. Just an address and a name. Morning came gray and bitter, matching my mood perfectly. The Morrison family breakfast table was set with Mom's best china, her way of pretending everything was normal. Ashley sat scrolling through wedding Pinterest boards, occasionally holding up her phone for Mom's approval. Dad read the financial section, hiding behind newsprint walls. "Sophie, I made your favorite," Mom announced, sliding Eggs Benedict in front of me. "Let's put yesterday behind us." The plate looked like guilt garnished with hollandaise. I pushed it away, still pouting. Ashley didn't look up from her phone. Very mature. "I'm not hungry." "You need to eat," Mom insisted. "And we need to discuss your behavior yesterday." Screaming like that. What if the neighbors heard? What if they did? I asked flatly. Dad lowered his paper. "This attitude isn't helping anyone, Sophie." "Helping? Like you helped by selling my dog." "He wasn't just your dog," Ashley interjected. "Technically, he lived in this house too. We all had to deal with the hair, the smell, the barking." Max didn't bark. Whatever. The point is, we all made sacrifices. Sacrifices. Ashley's sacrifice was apparently tolerating Max's existence while she lived rent-free, planning a $500,000 wedding funded entirely by our parents. "You're right," I said, standing. "You've all sacrificed so much."
Especially you, Ashley.
Having to see a loving, loyal creature every day must have been torture for someone incapable of either quality. "Sophie," Mom gasped. Ashley's face flushed. "At least I'm not a pathetic spinster whose only friend is a dog." I corrected. "Was a dog. Past tense. Thanks to you." I left them sitting there, Ashley sputtering indignation, Mom trying to mediate, Dad returning to his paper as if the market reports could shield him from family drama. In my room, I sat on the floor where Max used to sleep, his bed still there, still indented with his shape. His collar hung from my doorknob. I'd removed it the morning I left, wanting to wash it while I was gone. Now it felt like a relic from another life. My phone buzzed. "Sarah. Hey, how's Max? Bet he went crazy when you got home." I couldn't answer. Couldn't form words to explain that Max was gone, sold like inventory, his value calculated in designer leather and red soles. Instead, I opened my laptop and started searching. Daniel Blackwood, Greenwich, Connecticut. The results were impressive and intimidating. CEO of Blackwood International, a logistics company with military contracts.
Divorced.
One daughter at Yale. Philanthropist, apparently. Multiple photos at charity galas. Always alone despite being what society pages called Greenwich's most eligible bachelor. Why would a man like that buy a dog from random strangers? $15,000 was nothing to him. His watch in one photo cost triple that. But it was everything to my parents, or rather, to Ashley's vanity. I found myself studying his face in the photos. Mid-40s, sharp features, eyes that seemed to see through the camera. He didn't smile in any pictures, just offered a controlled expression that revealed nothing. What did he want with Max? "Sophie." Mom knocked softly. "Can we talk?"
No.
This silent treatment is childish. So is selling someone's dog for shoes. She entered anyway, sitting on my bed uninvited. "You have to understand, Ashley's wedding is important. More important than my feelings? Than Max. It's her special day. Every girl dreams. I don't. I dreamed of a life with meaning, with genuine connections. Like the one I had with Max." Mom's face hardened. That dog was becoming an unhealthy obsession. "You're 25, Sophie. You should be dating, building a career that matters." "My career does matter." "Social work." She laughed, actually laughed. "Honey, that's a job for people who can't do better. Or for people who want to do better. Better than selling their integrity for status." She stood, smoothing her skirt, that nervous habit that meant she was done pretending to care. "Mr. Blackwood is a respected member of the community. You will not harass him." "Watch me." "Sophie, get out." That afternoon, I overheard them in the kitchen. Ashley's voice carried, shrill with indignation. "She's being impossible. It's just a dog. She'll get over it," Dad assured her. "Sophie always does."
Did I?
Had I gotten over Connor's cheating, which they'd called a blessing in disguise? Over losing the internship Dad had sabotaged by refusing to co-sign my apartment lease? Over 25 years of being the afterthought, the also ran in the Ashley show? What if she does something stupid? Mom worried. What if she goes to the Blackwoods? She won't, Dad said confidently. Sophie doesn't make scenes. He was right. Good, quiet, accommodating Sophie never made scenes. She accepted, adapted, made do. But that Sophie had owned a dog. This Sophie had nothing left to lose. That evening, I heard Ashley on the phone, voice lowered but not enough. No, Preston, she's still sulking. I know, right? So embarrassing. The shoes? They're perfect. Worth every penny. No, the dog's gone. Thank God. Yeah, the new owner paid cash.
Cash.
Untraceable. Why would Daniel Blackwood pay cash for a dog? I pulled out the note again, studying the handwriting. Elegant but rushed, fountain pen, not ballpoint. Who in this house used a fountain pen? The paper was heavyweight, cream-colored. Not from our printer. A text from an unknown number appeared. The truth about your dog isn't what they told you. I called immediately. No answer. The number was disconnected when I tried again. My investigation shifted online. I posted in local Greenwich Facebook groups, carefully worded, looking for information about a golden retriever mix recently acquired by someone in the area. Responds to Max. Please, any information appreciated. Within an hour, the post was deleted. The group administrator messaged, post violated community guidelines. What guidelines prohibited looking for a dog? I tried other avenues, Craigslist, Nextdoor, Instagram. Every post vanished within hours. Someone was monitoring, censoring, controlling the narrative. That night at dinner, the atmosphere was arctic. Ashley wore her new shoes, clicking them against the floor periodically, as if to remind me of their presence. Those are beautiful, sweetheart, Mom cooed. They'll be perfect with your dress. They better be, considering what they cost. Ashley laughed, but her eyes darted to me. What did they cost? I asked innocently. Oh, market price, she deflected. 15,000 seems above market for shoes. Dad's fork clattered. Sophie. Unless they're not just shoes. Unless they're also the price of a clear conscience. How much does it cost to forget you destroyed someone's happiness? Apparently, 15 grand. You're being dramatic, Ashley snapped. Max is probably living in luxury now. The Blackwoods have that huge estate. You mean Blackwood?
Singular.
Daniel Blackwood. Ashley's face paled slightly. How did you? I'm not as stupid as you think. No one thinks you're stupid, Mom intervened. Just unsuccessful. Unmotivated. Wasting my potential. All the things you say when you think I'm not listening. We only want what's best, Dad began. You want what looks best. There's a difference. I stood to leave, but Ashley's voice stopped me. You know what? I'm glad he's gone. That dog was the only thing you cared about, and it was pathetic. At least now you might get a life. I had a life. You sold it. Back in my room, I opened Max's photo folder on my phone. Hundreds of images. Max at the park, Max sleeping, Max with his birthday bandana. Yes, I celebrated his birthday. In every photo, his eyes held that same trust, that complete faith that I'd always be there for him. I'd failed him. Another text, different unknown number. They didn't tell you everything. Check your father's office. Bottom drawer, left side. Dad's office was off limits, had been since childhood. But at 3 a.m., with everyone asleep, I crept downstairs. The drawer was locked, but I'd learned to pick simple locks during a misspent semester in college. Inside, documents. Contracts. And there, a receipt. Not for $15,000. For $35,000. They'd sold Max for $35,000 and kept $20,000 for themselves. The shoes were just a cover story. But why would anyone pay that much for a dog? The next page revealed more. Confidentiality agreement regarding the transfer of animal and associated materials. Associated materials? What materials? Before I could read more, footsteps creaked above. I photographed everything quickly, relocked the drawer, and escaped to my room. The truth was bigger than I'd imagined. This wasn't just about selling Max. This was about selling something else entirely. And my parents knew exactly what they'd done. 3 days after discovering the documents, I still hadn't confronted them. I needed more information, more proof. The photographs I'd taken were blurry but readable. Associated materials appeared multiple times, along with references to genetic testing, behavioral studies, and most disturbingly, Project Compass. I'd searched every variation of Project Compass online, nothing. Whatever it wasn't public knowledge. The house had become a Cold War state. I took meals in my room. They pretended I didn't exist. Ashley continued wedding planning with aggressive enthusiasm, as if her happiness could drown out the tension. Friday evening, 7:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was staring at the clock, wondering how many hours Max had been gone, 144 if my math was right, when the doorbell rang. Nobody moved at first. We weren't expecting anyone. Friday was Mom's book club night, canceled this week due to family matters, and Dad's poker game was tomorrow. The doorbell rang again, followed by firm knocking. "I'll get it," I said, already moving, something in my chest tightening with inexplicable anticipation. "Sophie, wait." Mom started, but I was already at the door. I opened it, and the world tilted. There stood a man I recognized from photos, Daniel Blackwood, though no image had captured his presence. Tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car, with eyes that seemed to catalog everything in seconds. But I barely registered any of that because beside him, on a leather leash, tail wagging so hard his entire back and swayed, was Max. Max. The name tore from my throat as I dropped to my knees. He lunged forward, nearly pulling the leash from Blackwood's grip, and then he was in my arms, licking my face, making those huffing sounds that were his version of crying. I buried my face in his fur, breathing him in. He smelled wrong, like expensive shampoo instead of his usual oatmeal wash, but underneath was still Max, still my boy. "Hello, Sophie," Blackwood said, his voice carrying an accent I couldn't place. Educated, international, carefully neutral. "I believe we need to talk." "Who is it?" Dad's voice boomed from behind, then stopped abruptly. "Mr. Blackwood." The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mom appeared, face pale. Ashley peered from behind her, those $35,000 shoes clicking nervously on the floor. "Mr. and Mrs. Morrison." Blackwood nodded slightly, the bare minimum of politeness. "Ashley." Her name came out like an accusation. "We weren't expecting," Mom stammered. "No, I imagine you weren't." He handed me Max's leash, and I gripped it like a lifeline. "May I come in? What I have to say shouldn't be discussed on doorsteps." Dad stepped aside mechanically. Blackwood entered with the confidence of someone who owned whatever room he occupied. Max pressed against my legs, trembling slightly, not from fear, but from excitement, the same way he did during thunderstorms when he needed reassurance that I wouldn't leave. We assembled in the living room, the same positions as that horrible day when they'd told me they'd sold him. Except now I stood, Max at my side, while Blackwood commanded the space from the center of the room. "You told me the dog was unwanted," he began without preamble. "A burden you were eager to unload." "He was," Ashley started. "Don't." The word cracked like a whip. "I've had your dog for a week. In that time, he's refused to eat unless forced, howled continuously at night, and attempted to escape 6 times. That's not the behavior of an unwanted animal." My heart broke and soared simultaneously. Max had fought for me. He'd refused to accept the abandonment. "More interesting," Blackwood continued, "is his training. Exceptional. Beyond what most professionals achieve. Whoever trained him has a gift." "Sophie trained him," Mom said quietly, as if the admission cost her. I suspected as much. His gaze found mine, and something in it softened fractionally. "Your parents didn't just sell me a dog, Ms. Morrison. They sold me something far more valuable, though I doubt they understood what they were doing." "The associated materials," I said, pieces clicking together. His eyebrows rose slightly. "You know about that?" "I found the contract." Dad's face flushed. "You went through my office?" "You sold my dog." We're past boundaries. What materials? Ashley demanded, looking between our parents. You said it was just the dog. Blackwood smiled, but it wasn't pleasant. Your parents provided me with extensive video footage of Max's training, his medical records, and most importantly, documentation of his bloodline. You see, Max isn't just any rescue dog. He's part of a very specific breeding program I've been tracking, one that produces dogs with exceptional intelligence and empathic abilities. That's ridiculous, Dad blustered. He's just a mutt from a shelter. A mutt whose grandfather was Titan, the military working dog who saved 17 soldiers in Afghanistan. Whose grandmother was Sage, the therapy dog who could detect seizures 30 minutes before onset. His lineage was lost when the breeding program was shut down, but certain markers, behavioral and genetic, remain. My mind reeled. Max's uncanny ability to sense my emotions, his extraordinary intelligence, his instant bond with me. It all made a terrible kind of sense. You knew. I accused my parents. Somehow you knew. We suspected, Mom admitted. The shelter mentioned he was special, but we thought they just meant well-trained. So you sold him to the highest bidder. It was a good opportunity, Dad began. It was theft, Blackwood interrupted. Fraud, actually. You sold me something under false pretenses, claiming ownership and authority you didn't possess. We're his legal owners, Ashley protested. No, I said, remembering suddenly. You're not. I registered him in my name. The chip is in my name. Every vet record is in my name. You stole him. The room went silent except for Max's panting. Which brings us to why I'm here, Blackwood said. I could pursue legal action. Fraud, theft, animal cruelty. Yes, selling a bonded animal causes documented psychological distress that qualifies as cruelty. Your reputation, Mr. Morrison, your practice would be destroyed. Your daughter's wedding would be the social event of the year, just not in the way she imagined. Ashley made a strangled sound, but, he continued, I'm more interested in justice than revenge. He looked at me. The choice is yours, Sophie. I'll return Max regardless. He's useless to my program without his handler, and more importantly, keeping him would be cruel. But the rest, exposing what they did, the money they kept, the lies they told, that's your decision. What money they kept? I asked, though I already knew. The shoes cost $15,000, he said evenly. I paid $35,000. I'm curious where the other $20,000 went. Ashley's gasp was theatrical.
Mom? Dad?
Their silence was answer enough. Into savings, Dad finally admitted. For the wedding. My wedding fund. Ashley's voice pitched higher. You stole from my wedding fund to add to my wedding fund. The irony was so perfect I almost laughed. There's more, Blackwood said, and everyone froze. Sophie, your parents never told you about your godfather, did they? My what? James Hartley. My business partner until his death 2 years ago. He left instructions that if anything happened to him, a portion of his estate should go to his goddaughter. You. The room spun. I don't have a godfather. You did. Your parents were named trustees of your inheritance until your 25th birthday, which was 3 months ago. Mom's sob was sudden and sharp. Dad's face had gone gray. How much? I asked numbly. $200,000. Designated for your education, a home, starting a business, whatever you chose. Your parents were to notify you on your birthday. $200,000. While I worked 3 jobs through college. While I lived in a studio with rats. While they told me repeatedly that I needed to be more independent, more self-sufficient. We were going to tell you, Mom whispered. When? My voice was strange, detached. After Ashley's honeymoon? After her first house? After her children's college funds were secured? It wasn't like that. What was it like then? Dad stood, trying to reclaim authority through height. We made decisions we thought were best. That money would have been wasted. On my life? On your bleeding heart projects. Social work, animal rescue. All these causes that don't generate returns. Returns? I laughed, harsh and bitter. Like Ashley's wedding? $500,000 for one day. That's a good return. It's an investment in her future. And I'm not. Max whined, pressing closer. Even Blackwood looked uncomfortable at the raw pain in my voice. You were always. Mom's search for words. Different. Difficult. You didn't want the things we could give you. I wanted love. Support. To be seen as more than Ashley's disappointing sister. We love you. You love the idea of me. The daughter you could have had if I'd just cooperated, conformed, cared about the right things. But the actual me? The one who trains dogs and helps troubled kids and dates musicians instead of bankers? Her you sold. For $35,000 and a pair of shoes. I turned to Blackwood. I want it all. The money they stole, the truth exposed everything. Sophie, please. Mom reached for me. I stepped back, Max growling softly. The first time I'd ever heard him growl at anyone. I'm done. Done pretending this is a family. Done accepting crumbs while Ashley gets feasts. Done being grateful for neglect disguised as tough love. Blackwood pulled out his phone. I'll have my lawyers contact you Monday, Sophie. We'll recover your inheritance and ensure your parents face appropriate consequences. This will ruin us, Dad said flatly. No, I corrected. You ruined you. I'm just refusing to keep it secret anymore. Ashley, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly exploded. This is insane. It's just a dog. You're destroying our family over a dog. No, Blackwood said quietly. She's saving herself from a family that was destroying her. He moved toward the door, then paused. Sophie, you have a gift. The way you train Max, the bond you've created, it's rare. I have a proposal if you're interested. My company works with service animals for veterans with PTSD. We need someone with your abilities. A job offer. While my world imploded, a door opened. Also, he added, looking at my parents with undisguised contempt, you should know I've already contacted James's other business partners. They're very interested in how his goddaughter's inheritance was handled. Very interested. He left then, leaving his business card on the entry table. I stood in the ruins of my childhood home, Max's leash wrapped around my hand, feeling simultaneously destroyed and liberated. Sophie, Ashley said, tears streaming down her face, real tears for once. You can't do this. My wedding will be perfect, I assured her. You'll have your designer shoes, your $500,000 party, your perfect husband who calls my dog that mutt. You'll have everything you ever wanted. And I'll have Max. You're choosing a dog over your family? I'm choosing loyalty over betrayal. Love over transactions. It just happens that the dog is the only one offering the former. I walked toward the stairs, Max matching my pace perfectly, and then stopped. There was one more thing. By the way, I said, not turning around. The note. The one slipped under my door with Blackwood's address. Who wrote it? Silence stretched until Mom whispered. The housekeeper. Maria.
She saw what we did, saw you crying.
She couldn't stand it. Maria. Who'd worked for our family for 15 years. Who'd snuck Max treats when Mom wasn't looking. Who'd never said more than 10 words to me, but had risked her job to give me hope. Thank her for me, I said, and climbed the stairs for the last time. In my room, I packed essentials, clothes, laptop, photos. Max watched from his bed, which I also folded and packed. His toys, his bowls, his medications. The Chicago hot dog toy I'd never given him, which he immediately claimed with gentle jaws. From downstairs, raised voices, my parents arguing, Ashley sobbing, doors slamming. The Morrison family was fracturing, but I realized it had been broken long before tonight. We'd just been performing wholeness, an elaborate show for the neighbors, for society, for ourselves. My phone buzzed. Sarah. Hey, are you okay? Your mom just called asking if you were here. She sounded hysterical. I texted back. Picking up Max coming home soon. Home. Not this house, with its perfect facades and hollow hearts. Home was my cramped apartment with Sarah, with Max, with authenticity even if it came without luxury. As I loaded my car, Dad appeared in the garage doorway. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was believing you could love something that didn't enhance your image. We gave you everything. You gave me things. There's a difference. If you leave now, don't expect.
What?
Your support? Your approval? Your love? I never had those anyway. He flinched, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from him in years. Sophie. His voice cracked slightly. We did love you. We just didn't know how to love who you became. Then you didn't love me. You loved who you wanted me to be. That's not the same thing. I loaded Max into the back seat, his favorite spot where he could watch both the road and me. He settled immediately, understanding we were leaving, accepting it with the adaptability that made dogs superior to humans in so many ways. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw them in the window, Mom crying, Dad stone-faced, Ashley on her phone, probably calling Preston for sympathy. They looked like a portrait of prosperity interrupted, a family that had everything except what mattered. The drive to the city was quiet except for Max's occasional sighs of contentment. At a red light, I reached back to stroke his head, and he licked my hand, a blessing, a promise, a renewal of vows between us. My phone rang through the car's Bluetooth. Blackwood. Sophie, I wanted to ensure you made it out safely. I'm fine. We're fine.
Good. I meant what I said about the job.
The offer stands whenever you're ready.
Why?
I asked. Why do all this for someone you don't know? A pause. James Hartley talked about you constantly. His goddaughter, who chose helping others over helping herself. Who rescued a dog everyone else had given up on. He'd be furious if he knew what your parents did. Consider this honoring his memory. You could have just returned Max and left. I could have. But some injustices demand correction. And some people deserve better than they've been given. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. The legal process will be ugly. Your parents will fight. Ashley will make you the villain in every social circle she can access. Are you prepared for that? I looked in the rearview mirror at Max, who was watching me with those wise, patient eyes. They already made me the villain for loving differently than they do. At least now I'll be the villain with my dog. He chuckled, a surprising warm sound. James would have loved that answer. The offer stands, Sophie. When you're ready. The call ended as I pulled into my apartment complex. Sarah was waiting outside, practically vibrating with concern and curiosity. When she saw Max, she squealed loud enough to wake the entire block. Max. Oh my God. You got him back.
How?
What happened? Your mom sounded like someone died. Someone did, I said, lifting Max out of the car. The person they wanted me to be. Inside, Max immediately reclaimed his spot on the couch, the one Sarah had always complained about until now. She sat beside him, stroking his ears while I explained everything. The sale, the shoes, the inheritance, Blackwood, the choice to burn it all down rather than continue the charade. Holy shit, she breathed when I finished. Your parents are sociopaths. No, I corrected. Sociopaths don't feel guilt. They're just selfish. There's a difference. What now?
Now.
I looked around our tiny apartment, water stains on the ceiling, radiator that clanged, view of a brick wall. It was cramped, cheap, and absolutely perfect. Now we live.
Really live.
Without apologies or explanations or justifications. Max barked once, his rare vocalization that meant complete agreement. That night, as I lay in bed with Max sprawled across my feet, hugging the blanket as always, my phone lit up with messages. Mom, please reconsider. We can work this out as a family. Dad, the lawyers say you have a case. Let's settle this privately. Ashley, you've ruined everything. I hope you're happy. But there was one that made me smile. Unknown number. This is Maria. I'm glad you got your dog back. He never stopped looking for you. Neither did you stop looking for him. That's real love. I saved her number, then turned off my phone. In the darkness, Max's breathing was steady, peaceful. For the first time in days, maybe years, so was mine. We were home. We were together. The family that had sold us both for appearances had lost more than they'd gained. They'd lost the only genuine thing in their perfect house, the daughter who loved without conditions, just like the dog they'd valued at $35,000 but couldn't price what he was actually worth. Tomorrow would bring lawyers, accusations, family warfare. Ashley's wedding would proceed under a cloud of scandal. My parents would face consequences for theft and fraud. The Morrison family name would be tarnished in all the social circles they valued. But tonight, in a cramped apartment with a rescued dog and a roommate who understood that love wasn't about pedigree or profit, I was wealthier than I'd ever been in that mansion of mirrors and lies. Max shifted in his sleep, his paw reaching out to touch my leg, ensuring I was still there. I was. I always would be. The Morrisons had sold my dog while I was away. They didn't expect who showed up at the door. Not just Daniel Blackwood with his lawyers and leverage, but the daughter they'd never known. The one who would choose a dog's loyalty over a family's lies. The one who understood that sometimes the best thing that can happen is losing everything you thought you needed to find the one thing you actually couldn't live without. Max huffed in his sleep, chasing dream squirrels perhaps, or maybe chasing away the memory of those days without me. "We're okay now," I whispered into the darkness. "We're finally okay." And for the first time in my life, I actually meant it. Monday arrived with 14 missed calls from Dad's lawyer, 6 from Mom, and 1 voicemail from Ashley that began with "you selfish bitch" before I deleted it. Max lay across my lap as I sat in Daniel Blackwood's office, a space that screamed power without raising its voice, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, original artwork that belonged in museums, and a desk that probably cost more than my annual salary. "Your parents have retained Harrison and Associates," Daniel said, sliding a folder across his desk. "They're claiming the inheritance was used for your benefit, private schools, college tuition, living expenses." "They're lying." "I know. But proving it requires forensic accounting. Every dollar they spent on you versus Ashley needs documentation." The unfairness burned. "So they can steal $200,000 and I have to prove I deserved it?" "Unfortunately, yes." But he smiled, sharp as winter. "I have the best forensic accountants in the city. Your parents' financial records are already being subpoenaed." Max shifted, placing his head on my knee, sensing my agitation. "There's something else," Daniel continued, his tone shifting. "About your godfather, James. He didn't just leave you money." My stomach tightened. "What else?" "He left you a letter. Your parents were supposed to give it to you on your 21st birthday. For years. They'd kept it for 4 years." Daniel handed me an envelope, aged but preserved, my name written in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside, paper that smelled of cigars and cologne I didn't recognize. "Dear Sophie, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and your parents finally did one thing right by giving you this letter. Though knowing Richard and Diane, you're probably reading this later than I intended. You don't know me, but I've watched you grow from afar. Your parents forbade contact. I was too unconventional for their tastes. Translation: I made my money in tech, not law, and I believe in dogs over dinner parties. I've left you money, but more importantly, I've left you permission. Permission to be exactly who you are. The girl who rescued a broken dog and saw his potential. Who chose helping over earning. Who loves fiercely and forgives rarely. Your parents will never understand you, Sophie. Stop waiting for them to. Build your life on your terms. Trust your instincts, especially about people. And always, always choose the beings who choose you back. The money is just tools. Your real inheritance is the strength to use them. With love and admiration, James Hartley. P.S. I heard about Max. Any creature that loyal deserves reciprocation. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Tears blurred the words. A stranger had seen me more clearly than my parents ever had. He knew about Max? I asked. James kept tabs on you. Quietly. He was furious when your parents dismissed your work, your choices. The inheritance was his way of ensuring you'd have freedom. Instead, they stole it for Ashley's wedding. Not just the wedding. Daniel pulled out another document. This is interesting. 3 months ago, your father invested $50,000 in a startup. The exact amount came from an account that should have been transferred to you. The betrayal deepened with each revelation. It wasn't just favoritism, it was systematic theft.
Why?
I asked uselessly. Why did they hate me this much? They don't hate you, Daniel said carefully. They hate what you represent. Authenticity in a family built on facades. Genuine emotion in a world of performed feelings. You're proof that their values, money, status, appearances, don't guarantee happiness. Max barked once, his agreement bark. So, what now? Now, we document everything. Every dollar diverted, every lie told, every legal violation. Your parents think this is about money. It's not. It's about patterns of financial abuse and fraud. My phone buzzed. Sarah, your mom's here. At the apartment. She's crying. I have to go, I said. Sophie, you don't owe them. I know. But I need to face this. When I arrived home, Mom sat on our stoop, designer suit wrinkled, makeup smeared. She looked older, smaller, human in a way I'd never seen. Sophie. She stood, reaching for me. I stepped back, Max positioning himself between us. What do you want? To explain.
To apologize.
To fix this. You can't.
Please.
Just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She sat on our threadbare couch, looking absurdly out of place. Your father doesn't know I'm here, she began. He'd forbid it. But I need you to understand. Understand what? That you stole from me? That you sold my dog? That you've spent 25 years making me feel worthless? We never meant. Stop. Just stop with the intentions. Results matter, not intentions. She pulled out her phone, showing me a photo. Young her, young dad, and a baby me. You were so wanted, she whispered. We tried for 5 years. When you arrived, you were our miracle. What changed? You did. No, she corrected quickly at my expression. Not you. Our expectations. You were supposed to be easier. Compliant. Like Ashley when she came along. Instead, you questioned everything. Challenged us. Made us examine ourselves, and we didn't like what we saw. So you punished me for it. We tried to guide you. You tried to control me. When that failed, you ignored me. She was crying now, ugly crying that ruined her remaining makeup. That money from James, we justified it. Said you'd waste it on causes, on others, never yourself. That was my choice to make. I know. God, I know. But your father, he had plans. Ashley's wedding, investments, securing our retirement. Your retirement? With my inheritance. We were going to pay it back.
When?
After Ashley had children? After they needed college funds? After you died and left me whatever was left. Her silence was admission. And Max. I pressed. How did you justify that? Ashley convinced us. Said you were too attached, it wasn't healthy. The offer came through a friend of Preston's. Daniel Blackwood isn't friends with Preston. No, but Preston knew someone who knew him. Said he was looking for a specific type of dog. The money was just so much and Ashley's shoes. Stop. Every word makes it worse. She reached for my hands. I pulled away. Sophie, please. We're still family.
No.
Family doesn't do this. Maria, our housekeeper, showed more family loyalty than you did. She risked her job to help me. You risked nothing and took everything. What do you want from us? I want my inheritance. I want accountability. I want you to admit, just once, that Ashley isn't worth more than me. She's not. She is to you. Every choice you've made proves it. Mom stood, defeated. Your father will never forgive this. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm demanding justice. At the door, she turned. That dog. Does he really mean that much to you? Max was leaning against my leg, steady as a heartbeat. More than you'll ever understand, I said. She left, and I knew it was the last honest conversation we'd ever have. The lawsuit hit the society pages before the legal documents were officially filed. Morrison family implodes over dog sale, read the New York Social Diary. Prominent lawyer accused of defrauding daughter, proclaimed the Times. Ashley's Instagram, usually flooded with wedding preparations, went private after someone leaked the shoe photos with the caption, $35,000 footwear funded by theft. I didn't leak it, but I didn't feel sorry for her either. 3 weeks into the legal proceedings, Daniel called with news. Your parents want to settle. Already. The forensic accounting revealed more than expected. Your father has been using your inheritance as collateral for loans. If this goes to court, he faces disbarment. Disbarment. Dad's worst nightmare, losing the only identity he valued. What are they offering? Full restitution plus damages. $300,000 total. And something else, they want you to sign an NDA. They want me to be silent. About the family matters, yes. The business fraud would still be public record. Max, sprawled across my feet during the call, huffed in his sleep.
No.
Sophie. No NDA. I won't be silenced anymore. They can pay what they owe, but they don't get to buy my voice. 2 days later, Ashley appeared at my work. The youth counseling center was hardly her scene, fluorescent lights, donated furniture, teenagers with more trauma than trust. She stood in the lobby like an exotic bird in a coal mine. We need to talk, she announced. I'm working. This is important. Serious my job. The job that pays nothing? The job that helps kids who weren't born lucky like us. She flinched. 5 minutes. I led her to the courtyard where the kids wouldn't see. She looked diminished, designer clothes hanging loose, engagement ring turned inward as if hiding. Preston called off the wedding, she said without preamble. I waited. His family doesn't want the scandal. Says it reflects poorly on their reputation. I'm sorry. I was surprised to find I meant it. No, you're not. I'm sorry you're hurt. I'm not sorry he revealed his true character before you married him. She laughed, bitter and broken. You know what the worst part is? I knew. Deep down, I knew he didn't love me. He loved what I represented. The right family, the right look, the right connections. Just like Mom and Dad loved the idea of me more than the reality. Ashley, you were right. About everything. They do love me more, but it's not real love. It's investment. I'm their success story. You're their failure, but neither of us are their daughters. We're just products. For the first time in years, I saw my sister. Not the spoiled princess, but the girl who'd learned her worth was her performance. It's not too late, I said carefully. You can choose differently. With what? I have no money of my own, no job, no skills except planning parties and looking pretty. You have a degree. In communications. Bought and paid for by Dad's connections. So use it. Start over. Build something real. Like you did. Like I'm trying to. She studied me, really looked for the first time in years. You got Max back. Daniel Blackwood returned him. No, I mean you got back what mattered. I lost what I thought mattered and realized it was nothing. We sat in silence, two sisters separated by more than years. I need to tell you something, Ashley said finally. About the money. The $20,000 they kept? It wasn't for my wedding. It was to cover debts. Dad's been gambling. Mom's been shopping compulsively. They're broke, Sophie. Everything is leveraged. The house, the cars, even my wedding fund. It's all borrowed against future earnings that won't come if Dad's disbarred. The revelation should have shocked me. Instead, it felt inevitable. Of course, the perfect Morrison facade was built on credit and lies. Why tell me? Because you deserve the truth. And because maybe if I start telling the truth, I can become someone worth being. She stood to leave, then paused. That dog, Max. The way he looked at you when Blackwood brought him back. I've never had anyone look at me like that. Like I was their whole world. You could. Maybe. But first I need to figure out who I am when I'm not performing. After she left, I sat in the courtyard processing. My family wasn't just broken, it was bankrupt in every way that mattered. That evening, Daniel called with final settlement terms. They've agreed to everything. Full restitution, damages, and no NDA. But there's a condition.
What?
They want a letter from you, stating this concludes all matters between you. No future claims, no contact, complete severance. They want me to formally disown them?
Essentially, yes.
Max patted over, sensing my distress. Send me the papers, I said. Sophie. They made their choice. Now I'm making mine. 6 months later, I stood in front of 20 veterans, Max at my side, demonstrating bonding techniques for the service dog program Daniel had hired me to develop. My official title was Canine Behavioral Specialist, but really I was a translator, helping broken people and rescued dogs understand each other. Trust isn't commanded, I explained, watching a former Marine struggle with his assigned German Shepherd. It's earned.
Daily.
In small gestures. Consistency matters more than grand displays. Max demonstrated, responding to subtle hand signals, anticipating needs before they were voiced. The veterans watched, mesmerized. These were people who understood loyalty, who'd been betrayed by bodies and minds that no longer obeyed. Dogs didn't judge PTSD, didn't care about missing limbs or night terrors. Dogs just loved. After class, I checked my phone. No messages from family. There hadn't been for months. The legal settlement had been concluded quietly. Dad managed to avoid disbarment by agreeing to supervised practice and restitution. Mom sold her jewelry to cover their debts. The house was on the market. Ashley had disappeared to California, according to mutual acquaintances. Something about an internship, starting over, finding herself. I hoped it was true. Good session, Daniel said, appearing in the doorway. He'd taken to dropping by, claiming oversight, but really just visiting. The Martinez pairing is working well. They understand each other. Both abandoned, both fighting to trust again. Like you and Max. We weren't abandoned. We were sold. There's a difference. Is there? I considered. Abandonment might be kindness, admitting you can't care for something. Selling is calculating worth and finding it profitable to betray. Your parents aren't my parents anymore, legally or otherwise. The paperwork had been filed months ago. Complete severance as requested. I'd changed my emergency contacts, my beneficiaries, everything that once linked me to the Morrison name. Any regrets? Daniel asked. Max chose that moment to demonstrate his newest trick, fetching my water bottle without being asked, simply because he'd noticed I was thirsty. None, I said. That evening, I attended my first gallery opening. Not for the art, but because Maria, our former housekeeper, had a son who was exhibiting. She'd reached out after the settlement, tentatively, afraid I'd blame her for not speaking up sooner. Instead, I'd thanked her. She'd risked everything to slip me that note. A woman who cleaned houses for a living had shown more moral courage than my parents ever had. Sophie. She embraced me warmly, then bent to greet Max and the famous Max, the dog who exposed the truth. The dog who was worth more than shoes, I corrected, and we both laughed. Her son's art was powerful. Portraits of invisible people, the ones who cleaned offices at night, who delivered food, who existed in the margins of wealthy lives. I bought a piece, my first real art purchase with my reclaimed inheritance. You look happy, Maria observed. I'm free. It's the same thing, no? Maybe it was. On the subway home, Max alert to every sound and movement that might threaten, I reflected on the journey. 6 months ago, I'd returned from Chicago to find my life destroyed. Now I had work that mattered, a dog who'd proven his loyalty and freedom from the toxic performance of the Morrison family. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Sophie? It's Ashley. My sister's voice sounded different, uncertain but clearer. How are you? I asked carefully. I'm learning. Working at a nonprofit in San Diego. Can you believe it? Me at a nonprofit. What kind? Animal rescue, actually. Figured I should understand what you saw in dogs. And I get it now. They don't care about your last name or your design or anything. They just exist with you.
Yeah.
I wanted you to know I'm in therapy. Real therapy, not the kind Mom sends us to for image management. And I'm sorry. For everything. For the shoes. for the years of dismissal, for not seeing you. Ashley, I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say it, to be accountable. I appreciate that. Maybe someday when I'm more myself, whoever that is, we could try again. As sisters. Real ones. Maybe. Give Max my love. Tell him I'm sorry too. She hung up before I could respond. That night, in our apartment, mine now, Sarah had moved in with her boyfriend. Max and I shared Chinese takeout and watched rain streak the windows. The inheritance had afforded me choices, a better apartment, a car, security, but I'd chosen carefully. Most went to savings, some to the youth center, some to launching my own training program for rescue dogs. Max rested his head on my lap, sighing contentedly. In his eyes, I saw reflected what James Hartley had seen, someone worth believing in, worth investing in, worth $200,000 and a letter of encouragement from beyond. My family had sold my dog while I was away, thinking they'd traded up, his loyalty for luxury, his love for profit. They didn't expect who showed up at the door. Not just Daniel Blackwood with his leverage and law firms, but the truth itself, padding in on four paws, carrying in its teeth the lies they'd buried under matrimonial marble and borrowed prestige. The Morrisons had gained $35,000 and lost both daughters, one to truth, one to self-discovery. They'd kept their reputation barely intact but lost their family entirely. Max and I, we'd lost nothing that mattered and gained everything that did. We did it, boy, I whispered into his fur. We're home. He huffed agreement, tail wagging gently, and we sat in peaceful silence, a girl and her dog, worth more than any inheritance, chosen family in the truest sense. Outside, the city hummed with millions of lives, millions of stories. But inside our small apartment, there was just us, Sophie and Max, survivors of betrayal, proof that love isn't measured in dollars or bloodlines but in who shows up, who stays, who chooses you back when the world tries to sell you away. The Morrisons had sold my dog while I was away. They didn't expect him to come back. They didn't expect me to choose him over them. They didn't expect the truth to have four legs and a wagging tail. But most of all, they didn't expect that in selling Max, they'd finally sold the one thing worth keeping, their daughter's last shred of loyalty. Max yawned, stretched, and padded to his bed, the expensive orthopedic one I'd bought with the settlement money. He circled 3 times, then settled with a contented groan. "Good boy," I said. "The very best boy." And in the quiet of our transformed life, that was everything. What would you choose? A family that sees you as an investment, or a loyal companion who sees you as their whole world? If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more tales of unexpected betrayal and the courage to choose real love over blood ties.